So I use my kayak a lot. I fish tournaments and I fish local waters with a lot of oyster bars and shells and rocks. So I added this Keelguard made out of Kydex, which I shape formed and cut to fit the bow. But I also noticed that if you look, you can see there's a lot of scratches and a lot of wear on some of the high points, especially here near the pedal drive. So you can see that I have shape formed it to the area that I wanted to cover. I heated it up. You saw that I held it down with my glove, and you can see the indentation of the area that I need to cut. I'll mark it from the inside. I'm going to go inside here and mark it on the edge so I can cut it pretty accurately to fit the cutout for the pedal drive. And then since it's shape formed already and it looks to be pretty good and tight, I'll go ahead and cut it, and then I'll apply the double-sided tape to it, and I'll do the tape as close to the edges as I can, as long as it gets a good hold, and I may run one across the center here just to make sure. And then I'm going to seal it with the marine grade silicone to make sure it doesn't gather any sand or any water from it. So that's the next step. That seemed to be taking the brunt of some of the landings that I do and some of the areas that I fish. You can see all the cuts and scrapes. Now they're not deep and they're not really compromising the integrity of the hull. This is the stern piece that I added. But what I want to do is I want to figure out a way to protect this larger area. And when I bought the Kydex, I bought 3 12 by 12 sheets. So I'm going to add a piece here to protect the front of the pedal drive, and then I'm going to protect this area between the rear of the pedal drive and that rear keel guard. So you'll get a chance to see how it all works out. Okay, so I heat formed it to this area. I sanded it first, cleaned it, cleaned the underside. Then what I did was I heat formed the sheet to fit the area, and then I marked on the inside what I wanted to do. I'm going to smooth this out with some sandpaper, just make it smooth. As you can see, I cut out the area for the pedal drive system, and this is formed enough where when I put the double-sided tape on it on the inside, I'm going to put double-sided tape around the extreme and then across, just to hold it in place real well. Let it sit. I'm going to put clear silicone, marine silicone around the outside to keep anything from getting up underneath it, and then we'll see how it looks. So that's the way it's going to look. We'll just see how it's going to stick and adhere and make sure it's going to be a good form. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that it adheres to that hump, so I added 3 pieces of double-sided tape along the edge here. So once I take these covers off and I adhere it to the hump, what it should do is it should adhere really nicely to that spot, making sure it's stuck here all the way across, all the way on both sides. Once it's down, I'm going to heat gun it again to make sure the tape really forms to the kayak and the scratches are filled in with the glue from the tape. And then what I'll do is I'll put the sealant around the outside to keep any debris or water out. Okay, so my next addition, let me get this shaped right. So my next addition, I've got the Keelguard on here, which is really, really nice. I want to get this piece, which is set to form, but what I want to do is I want to make sure that it's the same width as this piece, so I could either cut it just a straight strip, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat shape it, and then I'm going to angle it on both edges so that I get it like a spread pattern and I get more coverage towards this end. As you can see, I've got lots of what looks like wear and scratches on the... So I heat formed it to the spot that I wanted, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and figure out the angle of attack that I want from the edges to make it seem kind of more streamlined towards the front. And then I'll eventually end up working to a full 12 by 12 sheet, and I'm probably going to need most 3 more sheets. So all told for the entire keel with Kydex will probably be $60, $8.99 for the Gorilla Glue and my time and effort. I already had the heat gun and everything else. The silicone marine I had, I'm spending maybe $70 to do the entire bottom of the kayak in Kydex, which is a pretty good price, I think, for everything. When you look at some of the other ones like Keelguard and the rest of them out there, I think this is a fairly inexpensive but really hard material that you can put on the bottom of the kayak that will really add some longevity to it. And especially if you're out fishing all the time. I fish tournaments and I'm out probably 2 to 3 times a week in really oystery, rocky ground. I do freshwater fishing too, but most of my time I'm out in the inlands, probably fishing the flats areas. I'm going to scratch the heck out of it. This is only 1 year's worth of 1 year's worth of use. So get it coated, get this Kydex on it, and I think I'm going to extend the life of the kayak quite a bit. The nice thing is, if I heat this up, I can pop this off, put a new piece on, and rock and roll. And again, you know, 60 bucks, 70 bucks, maybe every 2 or 3 years. I'm going to see how long it lasts and how well it holds up, and I'll do a follow-up on it. So I'm going to put this piece down now. I've got it pretty well shaped and formed, but I'm going to cut it on the angle of attack that I want. The bottom here, so I want to get as much coverage as I can get, but I want to make it look a little bit nicer, so I'm going to cut it on an angle on both sides till it gets to full width, and then I'm going to have it come out. So we'll see how that works. Okay, so I cut it and angled it so it gets wider at the back and meets this one pretty close, I would say. Looks pretty good. I mean, we're within, I don't know, what do you think? I think we're pretty close. So I'm going to take this, heat form it one more time to make sure it forms to the bottom of the kayak. Then I'm going to clean it one more time and then lay the double-sided tape on it and adhere it to the kayak. And then once it cools off, I'll end up putting the marine grade silicone around the edges to keep all the materials out. I'm going to sand the edges down a little bit just to bevel them towards the kayak a little bit, just to make it cleaner and to make it not look so like a step down right here. So I'm just going to bevel it very lightly, hand sand it. Doesn't take a whole lot of effort. This stuff is easy to sand.